Imagine this. A plane 30,000 feet above the Pacific. Passengers screaming. The pilot suddenly collapses unconscious. The crew panics. And then, a calm female voice cuts through the chaos. Her words make even F-22 fighter pilots go silent, because the call sign she uses was never supposed to be heard again. High above the clouds, Flight 447 shook violently. Screams filled the cabin. The captain was down. The first officer, young and terrified, grabbed the controls with shaking hands. Flight attendants shouted into the radio for help. Their voices carried desperation, but no one up there could save them until she stepped forward. A brown-haired woman, quiet, calm. To most passengers, she was just a flight nurse, not a pilot, not a leader, just support staff. People laughed nervously. She can't fly a plane. She's only here for medical emergencies. But within minutes, her voice thundered over the radio. And when military pilots heard her call sign, they froze. Silent Hawk. The sky itself seemed to hold its breath. Her real name was Reina Vasquez. Only 28 years old. Brown hair tied back neatly, face calm, eyes unreadable. To her airline crew, she was invisible. Reliable, quiet, professional, but limited. Captain Morrison often told new staff, she's good at her job, but she's only medical support. Patricia, the flight supervisor, was blunt. She's not built for leadership. She stays in her lane. That's how everyone saw her. A nurse, nothing more, but Reina was watching everything. She studied weather patterns, not from textbooks, but from how passengers reacted to turbulence. She noticed mechanical issues, from subtle vibrations in the fuselage. She memorized navigation details from the captain's announcements. While others dismissed her, she was quietly learning everything about aviation. And beyond that, she cared in ways nobody expected. She helped elderly passengers buckle their complicated seatbelts. She sat with children during turbulence, turning fear into curiosity. She calmed anxious flyers with breathing techniques. To her, this wasn't extra. It was her duty. Passenger safety, passenger comfort. Always first. Everyone thought she was just nurturing. But they were wrong. Very wrong. Hidden in her flight bag was a silver card. Worn but carefully protected, it carried a single name, Silent Hawk. This was no ordinary ID, it was a military call sign. And only the most elite, battle-tested pilots in the world had such names. Silent Hawk wasn't just a pilot. She was a legend. Her missions had rewritten air combat tactics. Her choices had saved countless lives. Her teammates, many never returned. Her operations, never declassified, and now here she was, living quietly as a nurse, serving passengers instead of fighting wars, choosing peace over combat. No one on that plane knew. No one could have guessed. Flight 447 from Los Angeles to Tokyo was supposed to be routine, until it wasn't. At 30,000 feet, Captain Morrison clutched his chest. His face went pale, and then he collapsed. The veteran captain was unconscious. A massive heart attack. First Officer Jenkins, barely out of training, was now alone. Responsible for a Boeing 777 and 284 souls on board. His voice shook over the radio. "Mayday! Mayday, this is Flight 447. Captain is down. Requesting immediate assistance." The plane jolted. Turbulence grew worse. Oxygen masks dropped. Passengers screamed, and that's when Reina ran forward. "Let me help," she said, already checking the captain's pulse. "No," Jenkins snapped. His hands trembled on the yoke. "You're medical, not a pilot." "Stay back!" The flight attendants blocked her path. "Reina, this isn't your responsibility," Patricia insisted. From the cabin, a businessman shouted, "Don't let the nurse touch the controls. She'll kill us all." Chaos, doubt, fear, but Reina stayed calm. Her eyes scanned the instruments. Her mind processed the storm outside. And then she spoke. "Jenkins, you're overcorrecting for wind shear. Reduce throttle by 15%. Adjust heading 2 degrees west." The young co-pilot froze. "How do you even know that?" Reina's reply was simple. "I've flown in worse conditions than this." And with that one sentence, the truth about her began to surface. The cockpit fell silent. Jenkins stared at her. The flight attendant stopped arguing. Even the passengers who had been shouting grew quiet, because something about the way she spoke, and steady, precise, commanding, wasn't the voice of a nurse. It was the voice of a pilot. Reina stabilized Captain Morrison as best she could. Her hands worked quickly, professionally, but at the same time, her eyes never left the instruments. Every flicker of the gauges, every vibration of the plane, she saw it all, and then she slid into the co-pilot's seat. Not awkwardly, not like an amateur, but naturally, like she had done it 1,000 times before. "Listen to me, Jenkins," she said firmly. "You can't do this alone. Follow my lead. Trust me. You're just a flight nurse," he whispered, voice breaking between panic and hope. "Where did you learn to read all this?" Her answer was short. Previous training. She didn't elaborate. She couldn't, but her hands told the truth. There they moved across the controls with instinct, correcting altitude, adjusting speed, calming the storm. In the cabin, passengers felt it too. The violent shaking eased. The terrifying drops became steady climbs. The storm outside, still raging. But inside, order was returning. Chief Attendant Rodriguez reported over the intercom. "The turbulence is decreasing. Whoever is helping in the cockpit, it's working, but passengers remain doubtful." "This is insane," shouted Margaret Thompson from row 14. "We're trusting our lives to someone who probably learned to fly from video games." Her words spread whispers of fear, but the plane kept leveling. And Reina kept guiding. "Request permission to contact military ATC," Reina told Jenkins. He blinked at her. "Military? Why military?" "Because they have precision navigation tools civilian channels don't. If we want to survive this, we need them." Before Jenkins could argue, she reached for the radio. Her fingers dialed the exact frequency. Not searching, not guessing. She knew, and then she spoke. Her voice steady, sharp, professional. Silent Hawk requesting emergency navigation assistance. Authentication code follows. The words exploded through the airwaves. For a moment, silence. Then the frequency came alive. Controllers froze at their stations. Silent Hawk, a name they had only seen in classified files. A name believed gone forever. Silent Hawk, one whispered. "That's impossible." At Edwards Air Force Base, alarms went off. The commander himself stepped forward to confirm. "Silent Hawk, this is Edwards Control. Confirm authentication and state emergency status." Reina spoke the codes fluently, without hesitation. Codes only top-secret military personnel could ever know. Now everyone knew. This woman wasn't just a nurse. She was someone legendary, but the ripple went further. In Hawaii at Hickam Air Force Base, 2 F-22 Raptors were on a training run. Their mission changed instantly. Ghost Leader intercept and escort civilian Flight 447. Silent Hawk is on board. The lead pilot, Captain Sarah Williams, nearly lost control of her jet. "Sir, confirm that last transmission." "Did you say Silent Hawk?" "Affirmative, Ghost Leader. Silent Hawk has requested emergency escort." The cockpit of the F-22 went silent. Then Sarah whispered to her wingman, "Ghost 2, do you understand what this means?" Her wingman's voice shook. "Copy, Ghost Leader." But Silent Hawk was reported KIA 3 years ago, during Operation Desert Mirage. But if Silent Hawk was alive and flying again, the skies would never be the same. Back on Flight 447, passengers looked out their windows and gasped. 2 grey shadows streaked across the sky, sleek, deadly, powerful. The F-22 Raptors locked into formation beside them. Phones came out. Cameras clicked. Everyone whispered in disbelief. Why would fighter jets escort a passenger plane? Then the cabin speakers crackled. "Ghost Leader to Silent Hawk," came a female voice. "We are honored to provide escort. The entire Pacific Air Command sends respect." Gasps spread across the passengers. "Silent Hawk? Who was Silent Hawk?" Reina's voice answered with calm authority. "Ghost Leader, appreciate the escort. Request clearance for priority landing at nearest suitable facility." And the response came instantly. "Silent Hawk, you have clearance for any facility you choose. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen." The passengers heard it all. And slowly, the truth began to spread. This woman, the quiet nurse who had buckled their seatbelts, who had comforted their children, who had blended into the background, she wasn't ordinary. She was someone whose name made fighter pilots show respect. An elderly passenger, James Rodriguez, a Vietnam veteran, stood up. His eyes locked on Reina. "I know that voice," he said, trembling. "You were there, Iraq, Afghanistan. You coordinated air support." "Didn't you?" Reina's answer was simple. I did what was necessary to bring people home safely, the man's voice cracked. You were the pilot during the evacuation of Ramadi. My grandson was there. You saved his unit. The cabin filled with whispers. Stunned passengers stared at her in awe. The truth was undeniable now. Their flight nurse was Silent Hawk. The cabin was no longer filled with screams. It was filled with silence. Every passenger's eyes turned to Reina. She sat in the co-pilot's seat, headset on, her hands steady on the controls. The storm still raged outside, but inside the aircraft, there was calm because now they knew. Their flight nurse wasn't just a nurse. She was Silent Hawk, first officer. Jenkins kept glancing at her. Every move she made, he followed. Every correction she gave, he executed. And the plane responded perfectly. This isn't luck, he muttered under his breath. She flies like she's been doing this all her life. He finally asked the question burning inside him. You're not just a flight nurse, are you? Reina didn't look up from the instruments. Her voice was steady. I was a combat pilot. Now I'm a nurse. But today, I'm both. Passengers pressed against the windows, staring at the two F-22 Raptors outside, the most advanced fighter jets in the world. And yet, they were not leading. They were following her. Ghost leader to Silent Hawk, came Captain Sarah Williams's voice again. Your lead, ma'am. We'll escort wherever you choose. Think about that. An F-22 pilot calling a commercial nurse, ma'am. That's the level of respect Silent Hawk carried. The storm thickened. Lightning flashed across the windows. The Boeing 777 shook violently again. Gasps echoed in the cabin, but Reina's voice cut through the fear. Hold altitude. Adjust 3 degrees north. Ride the slipstream. Her hands guided the yoke with precision. Every movement smooth. Every decision calculated. This was no rookie. This was muscle memory, built in war zones. Down below, military bases scrambled. The call sign Silent Hawk had spread like wildfire. Commanders, controllers, even retired officers. They all tuned in. Is it really her? They asked. After all these years. Because in their world, Silent Hawk was a ghost, reported killed in action during a mission called Operation Desert Mirage. A mission so secret, most details remain buried even today. Her survival wasn't just a surprise. It was a miracle. Back inside Flight 447, doubt slowly transformed into awe. Businessman Robert Chen, the same man who had mocked her earlier, now whispered to his seatmate, She's flying like a military ace. No one disagreed. Even the children, who had been crying minutes before, now watched with wide-eyed fascination. Their fear turned to wonder. They whispered to each other, Our nurse is a hero. Then came the moment that shook everyone. Captain Sarah Williams, flying the F-22 beside them, spoke again. Her voice carried emotion. Silent Hawk, you don't know me. But your tactics, your missions, they trained us. You shaped how we fight. You saved lives we'll never be able to count. Her voice broke slightly. It's an honor to fly with you. Even through the radio, passengers heard the weight in her words. And for the first time, they realized just who was sitting in their cockpit. The storm finally began to break. Clouds thinned. Sunlight pierced through. The Boeing 777 emerged into clear skies. And there, like guardian angels, the Raptors held formation, escorting them home. Jenkins let out a shaky laugh of relief. He turned to Reina. You just saved all of us. You saved me. She glanced at him, eyes calm but tired. I didn't do it alone. You trusted me. That's why we made it. But her humility didn't fool anyone. They all knew the truth. Without her, 284 lives would have ended in the Pacific. And yet, when applause broke out in the cabin, Reina didn't smile. She simply whispered to herself, still flying, just in a different way. The landing lights of San Francisco International glowed in the distance. The storm was behind them now. But the tension in the cabin still hung heavy until the wheels touched down, smooth, precise, like a master's hand guiding them to safety. The Boeing 777 slowed, escorted on both sides by the Raptors, before rolling to a perfect stop. For a moment the cabin was completely silent. Then cheers erupted. Applause thundered through the plane. Tears streamed down faces. Passengers hugged strangers they knew. They were alive. Because of her, emergency crews rushed to the aircraft. Captain Morrison was immediately taken to intensive care. Doctors later confirmed, if Reina hadn't acted so quickly, his heart attack would have been fatal. But while the captain's life was saved in the hospital, the lives of 284 others were saved in the skies. When the door opened, officials flooded in. Airline executives, military officers, reporters with cameras flashing, all demanding answers. Who was she? How could a nurse fly like that? Why did fighter pilots call her Silent Hawk? Reina met them with calm eyes and only said, "I just did my job." Medical care, passenger safety. That's what flight nurses are trained for. But everyone knew it was more than that, much more. Captain Sarah Williams and her wingman stepped forward. They had landed their Raptors just to meet her. Williams snapped a perfect salute. "Ma'am, it was an honor to escort you home." The crowd fell silent. Think about that. A U.S. Air Force F-22 pilot, saluting a commercial flight nurse. That single image told the real story. Days later, media everywhere called it the miracle flight. Headlines screamed, "The nurse who could fly." The ghost pilot returns, but Reina declined every interview. No TV shows, no book deals, no fame. She simply returned to her flights. Back to the quiet aisles, back to helping passengers with seatbelts, back to comforting nervous travelers. Because to her, heroism wasn't about recognition. It was about service. Her crew began treating her differently. Jenkins, the young first officer she saved, asked her during briefing one day, "Ma'am, would you teach me the way you navigated that storm? We never learned that in flight school." Reina smiled faintly. "I'll teach you what I can, but some lessons come only from experiences I hope you never have to face." Her words carried the weight of battles fought long ago, battles she never wanted to revisit. Why didn't she return to military aviation? Why not become a commander, a trainer, a legend everyone knew? Rodriguez, the chief attendant, once asked her directly. Why nursing? Why this path? Reina touched the silver card in her pocket. Silent Hawk, a name heavy with memories and ghosts. Her answer was quiet. Military aviation means deciding who lives and who dies. Civilian nursing means keeping people alive. That's the choice I want. Simple, powerful, and final. Airline executives offered promotions, pilot positions, training roles, even administrative titles. She refused them all. "I don't need ranks. I don't need recognition. My job is here, helping passengers. That's enough." And that was the truth. For her, flying wasn't about glory anymore. It was about peace, about service, about humanity. Late at night, when airports were empty, Reina sometimes sat quietly at the gate windows, watching planes take off into the night sky. She whispered to herself, still flying, just helping people instead of fighting wars. And somewhere in those words was the heart of her story, because Reina Vasquez proved something we all forget. Heroes don't always wear uniforms. Heroes don't always carry medals. Sometimes they wear nurse scrubs. They serve drinks, buckle seatbelts, calm children. And in silence, they carry a past the world will never fully know. So the next time you meet someone in a quiet support role, remember this. The receptionist, the attendant, the ordinary worker, they might be carrying skills and sacrifices that would shock you if you knew the truth. Never underestimate quiet people. Because sometimes, the strongest heroes are the ones who choose silence. Heroes don't always announce themselves. Sometimes, they just make sure everyone gets home safe.